Hey guys, Samaya the Tarot Reader here. For those who don't know me, I am a professional tarot reader. I have read for some great platforms. I've worked on the lines, I've worked for online platforms, I read privately, and I also share some really good hints and tips and information to help people who are starting out. The reason I do this is because I know there are some very successful readers out there, and what they don't do is share how they've managed to take themselves from being a hobbyist reader into a professional one. And I don't think it's anything that can't be shared with people. I wonder if it's out of fear that somebody might actually become better than them. Maybe, who knows? But I'm all about the sharing. So here we are. What I'm just going to quickly go through today is the introduction or the start of a reading. Let's say, well, for ease, we'll just do it. Say you decide you want to be on the psychic lines, for example. So when a customer comes through to you, I would say the first and foremost thing to do is say, hello, your name is, and what your PIN number is, or how they can find you, how they identify to you, and take their name. So for me, that would be, hi, you're through to Soraya. My PIN number is 1234. Can I take your name, please? The reason I always start with asking the person's name is it is frankly just polite, but also knowing that the use of somebody's name is a really good way to build rapport. I take the note of their name, and then what I'll do is later in the call I will keep using their name. The reason I do that is there's actually a really good book by Dale Carnegie called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And two of the big takeaways I got from that is using somebody's name. They absolutely love the sound of hearing their own name. It actually makes them feel good. It gives them an endorphin rush because it's what they identify themselves with. And also people love talking about themselves. So that's the first thing. Okay, so you've done the introduction. Second thing is I'll always explain to people how I read. Now, the reason I do that is because expectation versus reality sometimes doesn't correlate. People expect us to be able to literally deep dive into their mind and know exactly what the situation is. As you and I will know, there are ways we know through the different clairs. So I am definitely claircognizant and clairsentient. I'm certainly developing on the other clairs, so the voyance and the orient, but I also read tarot. So for me, how I work is I'm very good at picking up on the emotions of a situation, but I love using the tarot. Tarot to me, I completely trust everything about the tarot. So I'll explain that, and I'll also explain that I do use the tarot. I really do go into great depths when it comes to the cards. I'll always explain my way through that as well because not everybody understands them. But I set my stall out right at the beginning, and the reason I do that is so that people can know whether or not they're through to the right person. Because past experience, I've worked for a line when I first started out, for example, who it wasn't necessarily somebody choosing who they wanted to speak to through reading through reviews. They were just literally patched through to someone, and it was pot luck. So if someone was looking to speak to someone who had passed, I'm not the right reader for that. So yeah, that's the reason I do that. And then what I would also do is get straight into the nitty-gritty about what they want to find out. Now, not everybody is the difficult customer who will just ask for the general. And I say difficult, I don't mean that like that, because like I said previously, generals don't worry me, but not every customer will hold back on information. But for the ones who do, the best way to get around that is to basically ask. So for example, I would say, okay, what are you calling for today? What is it you'd like to find out? So if someone said, I want a love reading, I'll say, okay, who is it we're talking about? Jeff, for example. Okay. How would you best describe where you and Jeff are at the moment? And the reason I'll ask that is because context is really, really important, and it also gives me a really good idea of then which spread I'm going to do. So, oh, well, we're not in a relationship. I would call it probably a situationship. Great. Okay. I then know what spread that I'm going to do, because what they'll be wanting to find out is, how does he feel about this person? How does he view this person? What obstacles could they be facing? And is it likely to be a positive outcome? something along those lines. So I'll know by getting some context. And what I would say is, don't be frightened to ask the questions. If you're asking the questions where you're just firing them out like a gun and hoping that one sticks to the wall, that's different. You know, you get the people who talk about Barnum statements and clever ways to ask questions like, you're not in a relationship, are you? No, I didn't think so. Ah, yes, I thought you were. I'm not talking about any of those tactics at all. What I'm talking about is saying, okay, can you give me some context to the situation so I know what spread to do? Now, when you ask someone to do you a favor and they have no reason to do you that favor, you're not going to get very far. However, if you ask someone to do you a favor and you explain why you're asking, they're more inclined. In the psychology of things, if I use the standing in a shopping queue, for example, let's say there's a lady with literally a full trolley and you have one item. If you were to say, oh, excuse me, do you mind if I just cut through? She'd be thinking, naff off. I've been stood here waiting in line as everybody else does. You wait your turn. But if you say, oh, excuse me, do you mind? I've literally only got one item. Is it possible I could cut ahead? And you know, my daughter's over there and she's screaming her head off, and I don't want everybody to, you know, to be giving me evils or something like that. The purpose of it is if you just ask a question and expect a favour in return, you're not necessarily going to get a great response. You might get a hit sometimes, but not always. But if you explain the reason why, as in I only have one item, or you know, I'm on a parking meter or something like that, people are more inclined to say yes because they can relate to it. So that's how you get around that. But if you're trying to use you know, the tactics to try and get answers out of people, they'll see straight through it and it'll be really uncomfortable as well. Okay, so what have we covered? Introductions, taking somebody's name, explaining what it is that you do, and also how to open up the read. I think I'll leave it for there today and we can pick up on other things later. If there's anything you want me to cover, please just drop in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and press the little bell also, because then it'll give you a notification on my next video. Thank you. I'm genuinely grateful that you've actually sat through this long. And if you've subscribed, thank you. Much appreciated. All right. Speak soon, guys.